Pirate has been calling me lately, not just for her monthly ration of rum, but also to scold me, saying that I've been far too soft with these microbrands. So, for this video, we're going to mix it up. We're going to tell you 5 reasons why you're not going to buy this retro diver from Baltany. We're literally going to walk the plank, one of the most loyal supporters of this channel. But stay tuned for the end of the video because we're going to tell you at least one reason why you're actually going to get this for your collection. Let's begin with the usual specifications and general rundown of the features. Of course, the biggest feature here is that it looks like a vintage age version of one of the most popular dive watches in the world, the Submariner. It does have that modern sizing of 39mm and a 47mm lug distance along with a 20mm lug width. This also adapts the now industry standard sapphire crystal and uses some modern looms that mimics the vintage aging effect. On my grandmama pirate abused wrist, this wears as expected with very little overhang with that 47mm lug distance. There's a considerable taper on this bracelet, so the comfortability is decent as well. No one in their right mind would think that this has an expensive caliber inside, but it comes with a Seiko NH38 movement that is very cost effective and properly comes installed with the no date feature. The screw down crown also keeps this movement safe and it provides a 200-meter water resistance that is also expected from these dive watches no matter what the price point. I've handled a few Baltany watches before and I can definitely say that the bezel here is an upgrade in the audio tactile department. The back is very plain in keeping with the emulation of Rolex and the clasp is the twin trigger kind housed in a milled enclosure. There are some sizing opportunities here but you will need a tool to work with this bracelet. But if you do put in the effort of swapping bands, you will be rewarded with options that completely alters the watch's presentation. From natives to sailcloths, this retro diver is versatile enough to accommodate these straps. The blue and beige colors also gives a considerable amount of matching options to play with. The common watch enthusiast knows that these kinds of watches are rugged and tough, but it has also become a sort of a sub-hobby to find ways of elevating its looks. With derivativeness being an inescapable part of watches, even from the Swiss side, it's only logical that it also applies on budget options such as these as well. Now here's 5 reasons why you'll likely skip on this watch. Number 5. Lack of convenient features. We don't live in pirate-infested waters anymore. Technology has driven watch manufacturing to more accessible heights. Microbrands today are not just expected to offer quick-release spring bars and micro-adjust clasp. They are now expected to have these features in order to compete with even the newest of startups. Baltany here refuses to have these components as I suspect that these will help them in their margins. So there might be a reason behind the lack of these features. Some old school folks like Grandmama Pirate would still prefer less mechanisms as this generally meant more robust construction, but in today's hobby-driven industry where there are more watches to rotate from, we can actually have both at the same time. Number 4. Boring finishing. This criticism is also present with the actual Submariner as that comes out as flat and uninteresting if you put even 7 seconds of attention on the bracelet. The case is safe with all of its interesting notches and curves, but the same could not be said with the bracelet once viewed from above. Yes, there is actual mirror finishing on the sides, so it's not all brushed surfaces. However, there are very little angles to see both at the same time, unlike when a chamfer is added on the edges. This dive watch is a tool watch after all, and some may like it plain and barren. Archie048 was thinking of buying a Baltany Explorer and saw this retro diver and it's now interested to see or learn whether they have the same kind of finishing. And yes, I can fully attest to that both have the same kind of finishing which is very crisp and very nice for the price. Watch pirates like me, however, prefer our watches to be more exciting. You know, like how face slaps go hand in hand with our dad jokes / bar pickup lines. Number 3. The Faux Patina. Grandmama Pirate always told me that she is like fine aged Scotch whiskey stuck in Captain Blackbeard's A. Never mind that she always called Attic A, strangely enough, but I always remember that she had a strong disdain for all sorts fake aging. I personally love color theory and combinations, so if I could get that enjoyment right off the box, I would be more than happy to not wait until I've lost all of my hair. You know, like Grandmama Pirate. This comes with that gorgeous cream loom prints all over the slate blue dial and bezel. It's simply gorgeous to look at, only if you could just ignore that pretentious context behind it. Abdullah R. Watches agrees with me, saying that it has an awesome color scheme and Baltany is doing great with all of these vintage inspired watches. Also, a plus is that it actually holds a decent charge. Number 2, the minute hand. There are certain things that don't mix, according to Grandmama Pirate, and you don't mix Rolex with Omega. Now, as a watch pirate, I don't see why she always says this and why limit my options, right? But then I see this dial, and she was right. This sword hand is, of course, just similar in shape with the Seamaster and not an actual reproduction, but it just looks off in tandem with the Mercedes hand. It's likely because the sub is so etched in our minds that we cannot see it without that straight minute hand, but here the tapering broad hand just works against the other three dominant shapes on the dial. I mean, it's bad enough to be a third wheel, but being a fourth one, well, maybe it's time to leave this party. Perfectly useless comment says, everything works for me except for that minute hand. It looks like a baseball bat. And finally, the first reason why you'll likely skip on this retro diver from Baltany, it's another homage watch. Yes, Grandmama Pirate has seen it all. It's the same old formula that all dive watches have been produced on, and it just sickens the moray eels off Grandmama's stockings. Baltany has earned a living at plundering many popular vintage watches and repackaging them like cartoned red wine. Yes, there is a market for that, and many watch enthusiasts have been buying them as an option against the legends of horology. But there is such a thing as market saturation, and the Submariner has long ago reached that critical mass when it comes to homages. Jay-Z Watches said that it is pretty much the Rolex that never was. It's a really cool watch from Baltany and kudos. So, if you're tired of all of these derivative dive watch designs, this diverse blue hue and lovely aluminum bezel just won't convince you otherwise. As promised though, here's one thing that will likely change your mind and get one of these: the price. This Submariner alternative will set you back just $150. That's less than half most offerings from Seiko and well below most microbrands would retail at the moment. Granted, there are other less expensive Submariner options in AliExpress, but many are too close to the original that it comes off as borderline counterfeits, or they have inferior finishing than what Baltany is offering here. In the numerous homage watches I've handled in the channel, Baltany always manages to separate itself enough from the watches that it's referencing. Different dial colors, unique handset combinations, and the occasional case variation, these are all in the playbook of Baltany. So if you're too reasonable to buy the original, but yet noble enough not to buy the bottom barrel homage, this retro diver from Baltany might have room in your collection. One of the few things that Grandmama Pirate and I agree with. And that's the Baltany Retro Diver. It's a very nice blue and cream watch. If you look at Rolex, if you look at an actual vintage Submariner that has these colors, it's very, very hard to find, if not impossible, because those watches typically they patina down into a tropical or brown hue, not blue. And at the same time, you're gonna have to try your best to also get that actual patina. So it's more likely that you'll get these colorways on the Tudor side of things, but even then, you're still going to set back by a few thousand dollars. And this is just $150, guys. So that's a compelling reason enough for you to get. Yes, it is slightly a little bit more expensive than the cheapest AliExpress homage watches out there, but those are cheap in all of its sense. Even the finishing is subpar, but this one, that's the good thing about Baltany. They actually care about the finishing of their watches. They're very crisp. The satin and brush finishes are very clean and consistent. We've seen that with their Explorer homages. We also see that here in the Submariner homage that they're coming up with. So it's a recommend, especially for $150. But I'm interested in what you guys think. Comment down below. Are you guys even considering Homage watches? Do you still want to buy, or are you still enticed at buying one, or is it like oversaturated? It's well overplayed. Comment down below. Are you tired of Homage watches? Like Grandmama Pirate. She's tired of many things. I'm telling you that. Grandmama Pirate is always like living under the hull of her ship, and she's doing all sorts of criminal stuff there. But nevertheless, she likes to scold, and she likes to, get tired of anything. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think.